Rapid train number 5418 is behind schedule just outside Osaka in Japan. The driver tries to make up lost time.
電車は予定より少々遅れております。次は尼崎です。
The train enters a curve at 116 kilometers an hour, 46 kilometers over the speed limit. Seconds later, it's airborne. It's Monday at the tail end of rush hour. For more than 650 passengers aboard rapid train number 5418, the morning commute ends in disaster. The train derails at more than 100 kilometers per hour and smashes into an apartment building in Amagasaki, 2 stations short of Osaka. It's hard to believe that anyone inside the first 2 carriages could have survived. But this man has. Shortly after the crash, Kyoichi Yoshida, a 39-year-old video engineer, regains consciousness.
目が覚めた時は、もう世界がなんか目の
When
前
I
に
woke up, the world in front of my eyes was foggy.
それはまあもしかしたら
It could be because I wasn't fully
かも
conscious.
しれないんですけど。まあその場所閉じ込められてた僕は閉じ込められた場所
I couldn't recognize the place I was trapped in.
まああんまり認識でき
I
ない
mean, I saw a concrete ceiling above the window of the train.
横転
And
し
I
て
thought,
電車のその窓の
what am I doing
コン
here?
クリートの天井が見えたので
I couldn't recognize the situation,
なんでこんなとこにいるのかなと思って、
but I knew I was in a
まあ状
dangerous
況自
place.
体はよく分かんなかったので自分がその危険かどうかもよく分かんなかった。
Yoshida had been traveling in the train's lead carriage. It hit the apartment building with such force that it's now buried deep inside the basement parking garage. The first rescuers arrive at 9:24 a.m., just 6 minutes after the crash. Nothing could have prepared them for what they see inside the wreckage. Kyoichi remembers the moments just before the crash. He was traveling to his job at a local TV station when the train suddenly shifted violently.
転倒するなと
I was imagining the train would fall on its
って
side.
いうのをまあ思って
And while I
る
was
間に
thinking
もう
about it,
転倒が始まっ
it actually started to happen.
た。体がこう進行方向に背中が
I
向
was
く
thrown
の
to my
が
right,
分か
toward the front of
っ
the
て
train.
はいたんですけど、だから
And I
自分は
realized that I was
車
facing
内
backwards.
こう後ろ向きに
I could see down toward the rear part of the
車内
train.
後ろの方が見え
And while I was
ながら
falling,
まあ転倒していたん
I
です
was
けど
losing
そん
consciousness.
なことをあってる間にまあ意識がなくなってたんですけどね。
All around him and beneath him are the bodies of strangers. Then he spots something familiar lying on top of him.
And then when I looked at my chest,
さっきまで使ってたラップトップ
there
の
was my
コンピューター
laptop computer I'd been using just minutes
なんかう
before,
まいこと引っかかっててここに
hanging nicely
隙間が
right there in front of me.
あったので
Yoshida believes that the gap between the laptop and his chest may have saved his life by giving him just enough space to keep breathing. The news of Japan's worst rail disaster since 1963 hits the airwaves within minutes of the crash. Momoko Suzuki is at work when the news breaks. She's horrified by the report of numerous casualties, especially because her husband and her daughter Junko often ride that train. The rescuers soon realized that 20 to 30 dead is an optimistic prediction. In the first hour alone, they discovered dozens of bodies, most of them in the two front carriages. Hundreds of injured passengers are taken to nearby hospitals, but many are still trapped in the depths of the wreckage. Kyoichi Yoshida has injuries from head to foot. He has a broken pelvis, broken ribs, and severe whiplash. And even more serious, his legs are trapped in the debris. They're squeezed to the point where there's a danger of crush syndrome, a deadly condition that can set in as early as half an hour after entrapment. It's critical that he gets medical treatment before his legs are released, or his vital organs could shut down. Saisakai Shiga Hospital is 70 kilometers from the crash site, and it's home base for a remarkable medical specialist, Dr. Takanobu Hase. He and his team are prepared to treat conditions such as crush syndrome, working right at the crash site while patients are still trapped.
How many liters of saline should we take? As much as we have room for. It's good to prevent hypovolemic shock. Well, make sure we have enough sodium.
His second-in-command, Dr. Shinji Akitomi, has heard that many rescuers are already at the site. But even so, he knows that this kind of disaster calls for experts who know how to work in confined spaces. The key is to get to the crash site in time.
And make sure we have enough sodium bicarbonate for elevated potassium levels.
コンファインスペースメディスン、いわゆる瓦礫の下の医療が必要な救助者がいるだろう。
I believe that the rescuers would need us, that we'd be able to help them.
Meanwhile, Momoko Suzuki tries to find out if any of her family members were on board train number 5418.
I worried if my husband had made it to work. I called his office and they told me he's in. I was relieved. But then I thought, maybe Junko is on that train.
Momoko's daughter Junko is a 30-year-old artist. She's been taking this train 5 times a week to get to a design course at a nearby technical school. Momoko calls Junko's mobile phone. She can only pray it will be answered. The team from Saisakai Shiga Hospital races the 70 kilometers to the crash site. Dr. Hase has years of experience in emergency medicine. The massive Kobe earthquake of 1995 was a turning point in his career. Hase was shocked to see many people die in the days following the quake because they didn't receive on-site treatment for crush syndrome. Ever since, he's taken a special interest in confined space medicine. The team uses this time to mentally prepare for whatever tasks lie ahead. Dr. Hase reminds his colleagues to give any trapped passengers fluid resuscitation before they're released. He also reminds them if they get it wrong, people will die.
Before they are released. Okay?
A young intern, Hiroaki Nagata, has joined the team. He's never set foot on a disaster site before.
私はその現場が初めてでしたので
It was my first time, so I was just going to do exactly as the senior doctors ordered. At the time, I had no idea what I could do for anyone. I was very nervous. Very nervous.
The senior doctors offer encouragement.
If you don't, just ask.
At the crash site, victims are still trapped in the wreckage of the first two carriages. The rescuers run out of stretchers to move the wounded. A few survivors are trapped so deep in the rubble that the rescuers won't even discover them for several hours. One of them is a 19-year-old student who'd been standing at the front of carriage number 1. The crash hurled him forwards into the driver's cabin. The young man is now trapped alongside the dead driver, pinned from the waist down, and his limbs are under terrible pressure. But he's conscious enough to make contact with his family. He tells them that he may not live long enough to be rescued.
Don't give up. Just hold on. Hang in there.
Further back in carriage number 1, Kyoichi Yoshida fights his fear and pain by encouraging the person next to him.
I was holding somebody's hand for quite some time. My mental state was not normal. It took a long time to realize that the person whose hand I was holding had already passed away.
That morning, Yoshida had changed his routine. Instead of riding at the back of the train as he normally did, he sat in the very front carriage. Car number 1 is the most mangled of the train's 7 carriages.
It was really, really painful. I was so preoccupied by the pain that there was no room left to think about how am I going to survive.
Oh yes,
Momoko Suzuki calls other family members to see if they've heard from Junko.
I've been trying to reach Junko, but there's no answer.
She learns that Junko was in touch with her sister earlier that morning.
The 25日の朝は私の方が出勤時間が早いので、その時にこんなことはめったにないんですけども、純子が
That day the accident happened on the 25th. I had to leave home before
お母さん
Junko.
今から仕事ですけどね。それが純子と朝の会話っていうんですか。それだけですね。連休が
There was a long weekend approaching, so my daughters had been exchanging text messages about having some dinner party. They were exchanging messages at the time, and suddenly it was cut off. It made me realize she was most probably on that train, and I started to feel very panicky.
By now, emergency workers have ferried more than 400 injured passengers to hospital. At the disaster site, they now concentrate on body recovery. After fighting traffic and roadblocks, Dr. Hase and his team finally arrive. They hope they're not too late.
The first thing I saw was a horrendous sight. This huge train bent into a V shape, hanging from the apartment building. It was a much bigger accident than we'd imagined.
As they approach the wreckage, team members check victims for vital signs. All of them are dead. But Hase and his team know from experience that there might still be survivors inside.
"4 hours had already passed since the accident, but things were still chaotic. If anyone was still trapped inside, they'd need confined space medicine. Also, rescuers might have been injured in secondary accidents. That's what I had in mind when we arrived at the site."
Inside carriage number 1, emergency workers manage to remove some of the bodies. But they can't release Yoshida. Crush syndrome is now a real risk. When muscles are under intense pressure, the damaged cells disintegrate. If the pressure is released, potassium and a protein called myoglobin flood through the bloodstream. Elevated myoglobin levels can cause acute kidney failure, and increased potassium concentration can lead to cardiac arrest. Without Dr. Hase's help, Yoshida could easily die.
Doctor! We need a doctor!
As Dr. Hase and his colleagues enter the destroyed parking garage, they're stunned by the destruction around them.
The first carriage of the train was crushed into the parking space of the apartment building. We went in there. I remember it was very hot and smelled of gas, because fuel was leaking from the cars in the parking space. Reinforcement steel was exposed, and there was shattered glass everywhere. Iron frames were bent and the edges were as sharp as knives. I felt it was very dangerous as soon as I entered. It looked like all those things could fall on you at any time. Also, evaporated gasoline could catch fire and explode at any moment.
いつ爆発するかわからないような状況だというふうに判断しました。
Inside the demolished car park, there's not enough oxygen and too much carbon monoxide, a toxic combination. And in this confined space, rescuers also risk contamination and infection from the blood and other body fluids of the victims. The temperature inside the wreckage reaches 40 degrees Celsius. But Dr. Hase and his team persist, carefully checking the vital signs of each body in their path. Eventually, Dr. Hase comes face to face with Kyoichi Yoshida.
I recognized him as a doctor the moment I saw him. And I thought, oh, the doctor has arrived. He was providing triage very prudently, taking so much time to make sure. I'd never met a single doctor who first introduced himself, so I was very surprised, and at the same time, I was deeply moved by it.
Dr. Hase realizes that Yoshida's leg is trapped and under great pressure.
When Dr. Hase approached Mr. Yoshida, he assessed what kind of situation Yoshida was in. His legs were trapped, and he was starting to feel numb. Dr. Hase was thinking about crush syndrome.
Hase knows that Kyoichi Yoshida needs to be put on an intravenous drip right away. But Yoshida's confused by pain, shock, and stress, and doesn't understand why he needs this kind of treatment. The doctor explains that intravenous fluid will help prevent crush syndrome and possibly save Yoshida's life.
He first told me something like, I am cutting your clothes. Even though my clothes at the time were all crumpled up and torn, he excused himself first, before using the scissors. And I was so touched by how polite he was.
The intravenous fluids help flush out the myoglobin and potassium that will otherwise flood into the bloodstream as soon as his leg's released. This treatment will help prevent kidney and heart failure.
The pain's killing me.
Fluid resuscitation also reduces the possibility that he'll go into shock once released. Momoko Suzuki has called all the local hospitals, but can't find her daughter Junko at any of them. Fearing the worst, she tries the last place any parent wants to visit.
Have you seen anyone like that here?
I called many hospitals, but I couldn't get information about Junko from any of them. So I realized there's a possibility that Junko is already dead and at the morgue. We were not allowed to go into the actual morgue to see the bodies. We had to wait in a room, and if there was a positive identification, then we could go into the morgue.
遺体と対面して確認するっていう作業があったと思うんですけども。
There were Polaroid photos of the dead people that I had to go through to check if Junko was among them.
Rescuers at the crash site are still finding victims. And more than 5 hours after the accident, they discover a young woman deep inside carriage number 2 who matches Momoko's description of her daughter Junko. Dr. Hase's intravenous treatment has dramatically increased Yoshida's chance of survival. But 5 hours after the crash, his left leg still remains completely trapped.
No.
The rescuers have a hard time working out which foot is Yoshida's.
No.
Tangled in the mountain of rubble with his left leg are the limbs of dead bodies.
No.
They asked me many times, is this it? Is this it? While they were tapping shoes. But I couldn't feel anything. I actually thought that my shoe was being tapped, but that my foot might be partially dead. I was worried.
Yoshida wants to call his family, but he can't find his phone.
So I put my hand in my pocket, and there was no phone. And I realized that I was holding the phone in my left hand at the moment of the accident, and that it must have been thrown somewhere. I thought about asking the rescuers to lend me their phone, but it didn't seem that my left leg was going to be released. It occurred to me to call my family, to let them hear my voice and let them know I was still alive. But then I also thought that if I didn't pull through, they might be devastated. So I decided to call them after I was released.
Yes! Yes!
After 10 minutes, the rescuers finally identify Yoshida's foot. As his leg is released from the crushing pressure, Yoshida experiences a strange sensation.
I felt a strong pounding in my leg. The condition was such that I didn't even know if the information from the tip of my foot would be going from here or come back to here. I couldn't actually feel whether my leg had been released or not.
I'm gonna roll him over gently.
Blood rushes into his left leg, increasing the risk that Yoshida will go into shock. Meanwhile, other rescuers working in a different part of the wreckage have finally managed to free Junko Suzuki. They ease her out of the rubble of carriage number 2 and bring her motionless body to Dr. Akitomi, who checks for any signs of life.
そしたら純子さんがこう
Miss Junko arrived in front of me. I was surprised because she was covered in oil and I couldn't tell whether she was breathing or whether her heart was beating. I opened her mouth a bit and found it was filled with tiny pieces of glass. I did not have any equipment with me. I just had 2 ballpoint pens. I put one of them between her tightly closed teeth and forced her mouth open. Then, using the other pen, I removed the glass from her mouth.
Dr. Akitomi tries to get any kind of response from Junko, but fails. He realizes she's in a coma.
Her level of consciousness was very low, and there was a possibility of head injury. Also, her blood pressure was very weak.
Junko is also in shock because there isn't enough blood and oxygen flowing to her brain, heart, kidneys, and liver. So these organs are in danger of shutting down. Dr. Hase and Dr. Akitomi ride in the ambulance with Junko, fighting to keep her alive.
Keep an eye on the monitor. This could be touch and go.
Her consciousness level dropped dramatically. It was a bad situation. Dr. Hase quickly gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and I went to get a breathing aid.
Okay. Got it from here. All right.
Dr. Hase was someone I really respected. He was very understanding. And he was my mentor.
Eventually, Dr. Hase manages to revive Junko. Her condition is so critical that her only hope is an airlift to hospital. Dr. Akitomi and Dr. Hase decide they must take the journey with her. As rescuers lift Yoshida out of his prison and into the light of day, he's overcome by a flood of conflicting emotions.
I was moved, not just because my legs were released, but also because the rescue people were working so hard. It took 5 hours and I was finally taken outside. I was so grateful to my rescuers that I ended up having tears in my eyes.
I
actually felt like staying there a little bit longer. That's how much we bonded in that small space. It was a real, special atmosphere.
Thank you so much.
It was really cold, and I started to have a chill.
Yoshida is suffering from shock, and there's still a chance of crush syndrome. Even though he was treated on site, doctors will have to watch closely for signs of kidney problems over the next few days.
I'm cold.
By late afternoon, many rescuers have left the accident site, certain there are no more survivors. But Dr. Hase's team isn't so sure. So after they've delivered Junko to hospital, they return to the wreckage.
特にこれは明らかな確信があったというわけではないんですけれども
I'd heard that in other countries, there have been quite a few cases where people were rescued 24 hours, even 48 hours later. I was not sure that any survivors would still be trapped. But I wanted to help in case someone was found alive.
Just after 4 p.m., rescuers hear several voices from the very front of carriage number 1. Among them is the 19-year-old student whose lower body is pinned beside the lifeless driver. He feels pressure in his chest, and breathing is difficult.
両足が挟まれていると
Both legs were trapped. He couldn't feel anything, couldn't move his legs at all. When I heard that, I knew there was a chance he would have crush syndrome, that if he did not get treatment for it, he may not survive.
The team's intern, Dr. Hiroaki Nagata, works his way towards the driver's demolished cabin.
そこは非常に狭い空間でですね。
It was a very small space. The train was crushed in like that, and there were a lot of dead people, dead bodies. It's not a nice way of saying it, but they looked like bats hanging down.
ご遺体がですね、こう、言い方悪いですけど、コウモリのようにこう吊り下がっているようなものも目撃しました。
Dr. Nagata prepares to treat the young man for crush syndrome and encourages him to hold on a little longer.
そうですね、もうあかんわ言って、弱気な発言をされてる時もありましたね。言い方悪いですけど、アホか言うて。
He actually sometimes said, I might just give up.
今すぐ上
When
で
he said that,
救急
I
隊
told
の
him,
方
don't be a
が
fool,
林くんに向かってこう
that rescuers are trying to get to him.
救出
So until they reach you,
確保
until they
する
save
作業
you,
をしてるんやか
you
ら
can't give up.
救急隊の
That's
方
what
が
I
到
told
着
him.
するまでは頑張れや、そしたら助かるしいうことを喋りましたね。非常にやりにくかったです。やりにくいけど必要なのでやらなければならないという状況でした。そういう
It was a very awkward way to be given treatment. I knew that if I failed to give him IV fluid, he was going to die. So I did my best.
You're gonna make it. It's okay.
Junko's mother discovers that there's a badly injured survivor in Osaka General Hospital who could be Junko.
Are there braces?
I felt my search is over. I have found her.
Junko is still breathing, but only just. Her doctor estimates that her chance of survival is a mere 1%.
まずヘリコプターで運ばれたっていうことをまず一番最初に聞きました。で、脳の
The doctor told me that Junko was brought here by helicopter. and that there was an emergency operation in her stomach area that they had to do without permission in order to save her life.
Junko has suffered a severe blow to the head. Her brain tissue has swelled, creating great pressure inside her skull. This pressure compromises the blood flow and oxygen that nourishes the brain. After hours in this condition, it's likely that any damage could be permanent.
一応手術して処置は一応全部するだけのことは処置はしましたから、あとは
They'd done all they could. The doctor told me that we'd have to see what happened over the next 3 days. That there could be brain damage.
脳を打ってるので。
Dr. Hase's team works into the night to help save the lives of several remaining trapped passengers. All are suffering from crush syndrome and need on-site treatment. The young man from the driver's cabin is the last survivor pulled out alive, 22 hours after the crash. In total, 107 passengers die in the crash, and 555 are injured, many severely. Kyoichi Yoshida's injuries are so serious that he spends more than 2 months in hospital. But he's deeply moved by the team that volunteered and traveled 70 kilometers to save his life.
If I didn't get treatment, I might have died or ended up on a kidney machine. If I'd been rescued before Dr. Hase treated me, it's likely I would have ended up with crush syndrome. It took 5 hours to rescue me. But that means I was treated by Dr. Hase. There was luck in a very unlucky situation.
He's now written a book about his life and death experience on train number 5418. After the accident, Junko Suzuki remains in a coma for many months. Family members keep a constant vigil at her bedside.
I couldn't accept the fact that she's going to die. I always had it in my mind that she will be okay, and she will regain consciousness.
Then one day, 6 months after the accident, Junko finally wakes up.
Oh, Junko. Junko, you're awake. MacKet, Junko.
病院の人っていうか周りの入院患者に世話をしに来てはった看護師さんも
The nurses at the hospital heard her voice with me. They were actually crying.
看護師さんの方が驚いて
They were so happy for me.
ながらお母さんよかったですねってみんな病室の中でみんなワンワン泣いてみました。
Junko has suffered some brain damage, but after intensive rehabilitation, she's back home with her family. She's become something of a national hero, and support has poured in from across Japan.
I was really that I was alive.
杉純子さんが5ヶ月ぶりに意識戻ったっていうことはもう本当に奇跡
It was a miracle that Junko Suzuki regained her consciousness. A series of miracles.
Dr. Akitomi often goes to visit Junko and her family, even though he now works 3 hours away in Tokyo. Junko's life changed forever the day train number 5418 went off the rails. But she hasn't lost her artistic dreams.
I've got good eyesight, and I've got capable hands, so I'd like to find some kind of job using my hands. I want to be an illustrator, or something like that.
しっかりとした絆が結べないまま30年時間が過ぎた。
She was my daughter, but for 30 years we'd never really been that close. I've been given the chance to raise my daughter again. We can actually start again. I feel that.
やっぱり愛ですね。無償の愛っていうんですか。
I've started to
本当の愛
notice
情っていうのはどういうことなの
what
か
love
っていう
really
こ
means.
とがやっと分かりました。